Now, for those who collect colored diamonds, and those people who invest in colored diamonds, and even for those who buy and sell them, those who cut them, or even people who appraise them, it becomes an ever-increasing challenge to recognize the following points. Number one, what color variety does the diamond belong to? Number two, to recognize if there are any secondary color modifiers present. Number three, try to ascertain the inherent lightness and the inherent saturation of a stone. And number four, trying to determine if the cut has improved the color in the face-up direction. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's like working on a giant puzzle, one that is never really completed and one that cannot be learned in any other way except through repeated exposure to new and different stones, and by reading about the details of how diamonds are classified and how they are graded in your spare time. Now, if for some reason you were interested in very minor color differences between two apparently similar colored diamonds, you'd have to resort to numerical color notation, as I spoke of, based on color measurement. This is the most precise way to communicate any color. Now here in this slide here, we're looking at a magnificent lady's ring that is set with over 120 natural pink diamonds from the Argyle mine in Australia. Now when these little stones are set together in this pave style, the visual impression is of a vivid pink color, whereas individually, their subtle differences might become more obvious to the eye, and if we could pop them out and measure their color, we'd be able to distinguish their differences very easily. By the way, the center stone in this ring is a phenomenally rare example of a fancy, vivid blue-green diamond. Now, in summary, natural colored diamonds occur in an infinite array of colors, from moss olive to cotton candy pink, from a deep blue to buttercup yellow. They are all very rare, some more than others. Yet the yellows and the browns and the orange diamonds still provide an excellent opportunity to own a colored diamond at a reasonable price. While the rarer colors, such as blue, purple, green, or in this example, yellow-green, or even pink, are considered excellent vehicles for long-term investment, with steadily increasing values on account of their extreme rarity and their unique expression of color in the face-up direction. This concludes my talk. Thank you.
And let's move on now and introduce Alex McIntosh, who will talk us through the next stage of the presentation. And Alex, you're co-chairman of Pastel Genève. Hand over to you.
Yeah. My first statement is follow that. So, anyway, I'm delighted to be here. Let me talk you through some of the business issues. That's the presentation. I think what Stephen's presentation brings forward is that, I don't know if you're familiar with a term I use all the time, USP, means unique selling point. It comes out of the high-tech business, which is where I spent most of my life. When I introduced Stephen to USP, we had a little bit of a problem with it, but his USP is being able to understand, in the way that he's explained to you, the differences in color, therefore in value of these colored stones. A couple of charts on, I'll tell you what our USP is. This chart was my effort way back when I joined the company almost a year ago. Stephen explained to me size, value, and whatever. And he was able, as I left wherever it was, Florida, to find the British penny and then put 3 stones. Now those 3 stones were probably valued about $500,000. And you see the relative size of $500,000 to 1 penny in UK terms. I'm going to talk about this as an investment opportunity. Stephen's given you a lot of that, the background to it. We have records in the company going back about 30 years. And over that period of 30 years, what we see is steady value growth. And that's important. And the way we look at colored diamonds is it's wealth preservation. Now, I don't make any commitments on what I would see as the growth, the acceleration over the year, but the way in which Gary and I look at this, and John, is that if one is looking for 8 to 10% per year growth, we think that's a reasonable target to go for. There are some years where one would see that growth. Maybe you can double the value in 3 to 5 years. That's fine. That will happen on odd occasions in certain periods. But if one looks back over the period, and we have records going back over 30 years, then I think 8 to 10% is a reasonable aspiration. Okay? And the window of opportunity, I think that is so, and I'll try and prove that in a chart. We've seen, we use, and we have the records from the major auction houses going back over a long period of time. We do see more and more people coming into the marketplace. We do have this situation where demand does exceed supply. Part of the collection that Stephen referred to was the company going back, knowing we needed those stones, going back to the people who owned them and saying, hey, we would like to acquire those stones for the collection. And what we're really offering is what we believe is managed insider access to the marketplace. By understanding where you want to go, where you want to be, what your aspirations are, then we can help you to achieve those. Okay? Companies has quite a lot of experience. We do personalize development for individual clients. We're a fairly confidential Swiss organization. I was asked the question earlier today. Our clients tend to do one of three things with their investment. They leave them, as I do, in secure storage at the duty-free store just outside Geneva Airport. They bring them here and they store them wherever they store them. Or, as happened with some orange I brought in the other day, they are made into jewelry for the individual. So those are the three areas. The storage space in Switzerland, I've been there, I know it. It's very clear, very precise, and very Swiss. I worked for a German Swiss for 5 years, and I know them well. We have very extensive client base in Europe. That's extending into the US, it's into the Far East, and in fact we were in Japan just a couple of months ago, Michael was. And one of our USPs is access to Stephen. And then, in fact, despite the fact he's already pitched for a while, I kept in the chart that I wrote some time ago. Stephen started as a geologist, went into gemology, and then he became a diamond cutter. And as he talks about being able to enhance the color in the stone by the way in which it's cut, that's because he understands down to the last level of detail. He's a graduate of GIA, which he mentioned, and he's a fellow of the Gemological Association of GB, of Great Britain. This USP of being able to measure color in the way he does is quite remarkable. And the fact that he was invited by the Smithsonian, I think, is again an indicator of his value. There are 2 copies of his book at the back there. It comes in 760 pages. It weighs about 9.5 pounds, and I know that because I've been carrying one of them around for the last 2 days. It took about 7 years to write. It's quite remarkable.